Kia ora. No mai haere mai ki Aotearoa. Welcome to New Zealand and to Te Awaroa National Park. This little slice of paradise is teeming with creatures big and small, and more adventures than you'll find on any movie screen or storybook. Now I've lived out here in the Wop Wops all my life, and never wanted for anything else. In fact, it's practically in my blood. This place and my family go way back. Things have been a little tricky lately, though. It's fast becoming somewhere I don't recognise anymore, and I don't like it. That's why I dragged you out here, Hoa. With your help, we're going to wean ourselves off outside money and make Te Awaroa a model for sustainability the entire South Island can get behind. Right, let's get moving. Glad to see you've arrived in one piece. Josh is my nephew. He just got his license, and I swear that kid spends more time with his hands on the radio dials than on the steering wheel. I hope he didn't talk your ear off. I've had to rely on him a lot lately since my legs started acting up again. I was planning to head out and meet you today, but here I am at home, propped up on 5 kinds of pillows. Doctor's orders. Anyway, that's enough chit-chat from me. Head over to the outpost marked on your hunter, mate, and let's get you started. Not far now. We built these outposts in the early 90s. They got the works, repurposed materials, solar roofs, rainwater tanks. That was back when people used to just call you a hippie. Now everything's sustainable, clean, green, eco-friendly. Hippies? Ha! Try trailblazers. And good for the environment doesn't have to mean bad for your back. It's pretty cozy inside. Go on, take a look. See, we got company. That'll be Josh's doing, the brat. I told him to leave things be, but I guess he couldn't resist. Anyway, maybe it's just as well you get used to it. I'll fill you in later. Right, mate? See that camera on the table? Strap it to your chest and let me explain what exactly you're here for. There's a lookout tower not far away, so you can head up there and get a sense of the place while I flap my gums. Nice and tight now. Wouldn't want it coming off right when you've got a shot lined up. So, the plan. I want to turn this place into a year-round retreat for hunters like you and Alejandra. So I don't spend most of the year worrying about whether our native plants are going to get overrun by deer again. There's a lot of filmmaking talent out here, and it hasn't been put to good use lately, if you ask me. So we're going to make a commercial, show the world there's more to New Zealand than haka and halflings. And who better to demonstrate the thrill of the chase than an experienced hunter like yourself? Te Awaroa's prime was back in the 80s. Most of the other hunters out here are equally long of tooth. We need someone young, new, dynamic. You. The camera will do most of the work, so you just have to make sure it's on when you head out to hunt. We have a couple of strategic locations on our list to get through, but let's get you that view first. There's the lookout tower, just up ahead. Just take that in. Spectacular, isn't it? This eastern area is all rolling hills and conifers. There's a line of mountains in the centre of the reserve, and native beech forest, and a lot of rain on the other side. You're not going to be outrunning anything out here, so don't try. Nothing like the mad dash to find your harvest once you have taken it slow and steady, though. Right, so remember Josh's little break? Outposts have ammo of all
This place
kinds
doesn't
and
receive a lot
besides.
of government funding, unfortunately, and a couple of years ago we were running out of money for field research, and the outposts were in need of sprucing up.
So I guess you could say we made a deal with the devil, the Hollywood devil to be exact.
My mentor used to tell me that if you don't look like a bit of a wally when you're stalking your prey, you're probably doing it wrong.
So pull up those sleeves and get to know the dirt.
Long story short, they've just wrapped up filming for the final movie they were contracted to do. Some fantasy thing, shiny blade or shimmering dagger or something.
Now let me check. Resplendent sword. I'll send you the blurb they gave me. My nephew tells me it's a big deal, but I'd certainly never heard of it before this.
But yeah, as nice as it is that Te Awaroa's beauty is up on the silver screen for all to see, it's come with its share of problems, to say the least. The bigwigs left in a hurry, and we got left with a bunch of basically intact movie sets scattered here and there all over the reserve. Well, I'm telling you all of this because Josh just rang me up and said that he spotted another set on his way back, not far from where I wanted you to try filming your first hunt. Can I trouble you to go clear it out? We can't run the risk of any of the props from the film featuring in our footage. Cheers.
Oh, what a mess. If I'd known this was going to happen, I never would have agreed to it. This isn't even the worst of it. Right, let's take it one by one. Just bundle them into crates and I'll get someone to swing by later and transport them out of the reserve. Quite the medieval fair. Looks more than a bit incongruous out here if you ask me. Are those real oranges? Good enough to eat, eh? I hope it didn't have an actual fire in that thing. That's the last of them. What's that note? Props list. Foam statue of haughty elf standing prow, 9 foam warriors, 8 golden goblets, 3 green screens. This reads like a Christmas carol. See any of those? Bit dodgy. Townies must have been up here. Well, even though this isn't our mess to clean up, I should probably ask around and see if anyone knows what's happened to the missing props. The last thing we need is to get blamed for this. Maybe they did a very selective sweep. I'll see if anyone has a bigwig's numbers. Thanks for your help, Ehor. Let's move on. Before you head off and film your hunts, first we've got to set the scene, so to speak. The marketing team's looking for some photos for the reserve website, something to give people a taste of what this place has to offer. Now that we've dealt with that bloody mess, you think you could head over to Lake Wakaiti and snap a few shots for us? There's a willow tree there growing right out of the water that all their influencers or whatever they call themselves go bonkers for. It does make for a good photo op, I'll give it that. If you're wondering why there's no one around, it's because the reserve is officially closed to visitors for the foreseeable future. And definitely conducting emergency field research, we said. If that's what it takes to get the day trippers to clear out for a hot minute, so be it.
I swear I haven't seen this place so deserted in about 10 years. Ah, it's lovely, actually. Even if I can only experience it through you. We used to camp out here when I was little. Tramp over from the other side. Me and a gaggle of other kids carrying backpacks bigger than our whole bodies. Not much of that lifestyle left these days. I miss it sometimes. Don't fall in now. Wouldn't be the first time that's happened here. That'll do. It's looking well. We had some hoon try to saw off one of the branches a few weeks ago. Can you believe? Well, luckily someone managed to talk him out of it. Sometimes wedding parties will have the brides come up and sit on it, wade right into the water and soak those dear dresses. That tree is 80 years old. Started off as a stray branch nailed to a fence. It's a tribute to tenacity, if you ask me. Right, now for our next destination. Head down to the shoreline. There's a set of huge boulders there that have to be seen to be believed. I know what you're thinking. She's showing me some rocks. But trust me on this one. Oh, well, look at this. Couldn't help themselves, could they? One last hurrah before we shut the place down. This really can't wait, mate. There's a little blue penguin population nesting not far from here, and they'll gladly take this for food. Okay, that looks manageable. Let's clean this up and take the photo. Then we can talk hunting again. Well, as you can imagine, being featured in a host of box office hits has done wonders for our profile with tourists. Problem is, a lot of the people who come are just here to take a few photos, dump a heap of rubbish, and then leave unceremoniously. So we end up with messes like this one. I'd like to say that we've become the victim of our own success, but that's letting me off the hook. Right, there should be a stand over on the other end of the beach with rubbish bags and a picker. We went to all the trouble of installing these, and they still couldn't be bothered. Looks like they had quite the little feast. These kids would have nightmares if you showed them some of what I've seen out here. Birds with stomachs so full of plastic they can't eat. There, leave them over by the stand. South Island University. I knew it. Way too many people around here who have never respected this place. That's a perfectly usable tent. No sense wasting it. Anyway, I've had enough of this. You know, we need to ensure that we're attracting the right kinds of tourists, not just day trippers from Christchurch out on their school holidays. It's okay for people to come here and leave no trace, but it'd be better if we could rely on them to help us with our conservation goals. So hunters seem like the natural target audience. Our deer and goat populations need constant culling. And you better believe I've more faith in people who love the wilderness to respect the place than kids up to no good. At the risk of sounding like an old fusspot. Speaking of, let's do what we came to do and grab that photo. Lovely use of lighting. I may have to hire you to help out on my next book project, if I ever finish the current one. There's a lot of theories about where these boulders came from. Volcanic activity, lightning, even aliens. I've heard them all over the years. The boffins will tell you they were formed over 60 million years ago on the sea floor, like pearls. But that's not the whole story. When people first arrived in New Zealand, they took their staple crop with them, kumara, otherwise known as sweet potato. Unfortunately for them, the weather in this part of the country isn't exactly conducive to growing much, and the tubers withered and died. So they sent word to the Polynesian homeland, and a canoe set sail with a HAERE crop. But it was caught in an intense storm just off the east coast. Each wave that struck it was so large that it made a new hill. Those are the ones you'll see further inland, and all of the cargo went overboard. And that's what these boulders are. Petrified kumara, eel baskets, calabashes. The canoe itself formed the reef further up. Moral of the story? Things have long shelf lives. A lesson I wish someone had taught those kids. Right, feeling warmed up? Good. It's time for you to show me what you can do. Camera on? Then you should have everything you need. I got Josh to set it up. He told me to tell you that it's state-of-the-art, equipped with Wi-Fi, so any footage you grab is automatically uploaded to our server. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I guess I'll be able to see it on here? No pressure then. There's good hunting in the whole of this area, from up around where you cleared out the props earlier to closer to the beach. Take your pick. But just one thing. We want it to show up nice on camera, so no minnows. Try for something at least 30 kg. The larger the better. Should be no problem for a hotshot like you. No word back from our friends in Hollywood regarding the props, by the way. My guess is that some townie thought it'd be a hoot to grab them for their crib. But I'm not keen on the idea of someone wandering around when we're supposed to be closed to visitors. Anyway, nothing you need to worry about right now. Just focus on those killer shots. What a beaut! And that chase. Gonna make for some great footage. You're living up to your reputation, I'll give you that. A lot of people around here think that hunting's heyday peaked in the 70s and 80s. Back when you'd get scores of daredevils out in helicopters gunning down deer 3 at a time. That's not the done thing anymore, for a whole host of reasons. But these days we need hunters more than ever. And I'm glad I have you on board to help us show the world that. You've got a fan here, Hoa. Josh gave me a hand posting some footage from your hunt to the reserve chat group, and it caught the eye of our resident sharpshooter, Melanie Murphy. Melanie's the one who taught me to hunt. She's retired now, but back in the day she worked out on those helicopters with the best, or worst of them. Tough as nails and with a sharp tongue to boot. We had a bit of a falling out 25 years ago. One of the choppers came down with us in it. That's how I injured my leg. I won't go into it, but we should never have taken off that day, and Melanie knew it. Well, these days we're cordial to each other, but not much else. Anyway, my mum always told me to let bygones be bygones and all that. Melanie's a better hunter than I'll ever be, advanced age notwithstanding. So I'll do my best to pass on whatever I've learnt from her gratis. You're welcome. Right, back on track. Sorry to ask again, but I need you to do me a favour. No, it's not more cleaning up, don't worry. Head to the outpost I've marked on your hunter mate and I'll explain on the way. Head into the outpost. There should be a battery pack on the table. I've been meaning to get out there for ages, but then my legs started acting up again. Nice to have the help. Is the camera turned toward the river? Just a little further up there. Cheers. That should keep it going for another few years. Can you check the other cameras while you're here? Might give you some stalking suggestions, if nothing else. When something shows up on these, 9 times out of 10, it's a stray deer. Between these little fellas and that props list, Christmas has come early this year. There's our missing props. But who? I don't honestly mind someone getting some use out of them as long as we're not deemed responsible, but that's a big bloody truck. There's no driving of anything larger than an ATV permitted in the reserve. Don't see any tracks, do you? Must have been a few days ago at the earliest. License plate's pretty clear at least. I'll do some detective work and let you know. I don't suppose you packed any swimming togs, eh? Well, not to worry. Getting to our next destination involves a bit of spelunking, but a flashlight and some waterproof boots should be all you need. Head to the cave I've marked on your hunter mate. Unless you'd rather climb over those mountains. No? Didn't think so. Follow the river west and you'll eventually wind up at the cave mouth.
The water's low right now, but it can still catch you by surprise. Stick to the walls and get that flashlight on. Easy does it. Wait, I know you're almost out, but indulge me for a minute. Take a look on your right. A little further ahead. This is why I live here. Go ahead. Get as close as you want. Just don't touch it. See the cracks in the surface? It's limestone, notoriously unstable. These cave paintings aren't going to be here forever, but I've made it my mission to ensure that we do everything we can to keep them around for as long as possible. Kids like Josh need to learn their history, right? It's part of what it means to be human. Knowing you come from something else, someone else. We call it whakapapa. It means genealogy, but also to place in layers. And those layers link us all. Everything ends up in the ground, bird or human or rock or deer. Anyway, that's enough philosophizing from me. Let's get you out of here. I'm sure you've never been so happy to lay your eyes on the wonderful Kiwi weather. Stretch those legs. Nothing like wandering through a damp, cramped cave to give you a new lust for life. Right, I hope you're not too worn out now. More filming's on the table, but first, can I trouble you to take a little detour? Let me explain. The beech trees here form one of the finest examples of native forest in all of New Zealand. In no small part due to the efforts of our resident conservationist marama. We just had a mast year when they seed like crazy. And this means plenty of food for mice and rats, which in turn means plenty of food for other small pests. Beginning to see the problem? When the rats run out, those small mammals prey on native bird species, the pesky critters. We've used aerial 1080 poisoning to stave off the worst of them. But to slow their reintroduction, we need to get our hands dirty and lay down a few traps ourselves. It's time-sensitive work, and unfortunately, Marama's feeling a bit crook and had to stay home today. Can you take over for her? She's left them in a box near the target site. Conservation here is a constant tit-for-tat against these invasive mammal species. Our only indigenous mammals are 3 types of bats and some marine species. Everything else is a pest to a lesser or greater extent. Sometimes our methods can seem extreme. 1080 poisoning isn't without its naysayers, but it's one of the only tools we have to help protect the uniqueness of this place. Now, hunting helps too. I don't want to go back to the days of the helicopter wars, but having recreational hunters here year-round would go a very long way. the box? 4 should do as long as you cover enough ground. Cutting-edge Kiwi technology, these. Self-resetting and all. That looks like as good a spot as any. Should be simple to set up. Just install the mount and clip the trap body into place. 2 down, 2 to go. The birds will thank you for this. And that's all of them. Top-notch conservation work, Ehor. One final thing. You can take down the 1080 warning sign. Any animals that haven't already kicked the bucket should have metabolized it by now, so it's safe to hunt in the area again. Hold on just a second. Are you seeing what I'm seeing on the ground there? These tracks aren't particularly old, eh? I hadn't expected we'd be able to deter everyone, but it's not exactly an optimal time to go for a stroll in the bush. 1 second, Josh is ringing. Feel like checking out with our lead? Right, sorry about that. Where are they taking you? What's that over there? This looks like it's right out of Resplendent Sword. Surely they didn't. Oh, where? Poor thing, looks like it's been torn to bits. Is that a handmade arrow? And to top it all off, there's heavy rain forecast. Perfect bloody timing. There's an outpost not far. Why don't you take shelter there and see if there's any more clues as to what we're dealing with here? Stuff from the photograph. What's the appeal of this rubbish? Must have left in a real hurry. Can you put the signs back up at least? Yeah. I think that's as good as you're going to get it looking. Now we know where our pickup truck went. Glad to see the back of it. But look at me talking. You're so tough to death. Get inside and I'll fill you in on what Josh told me. Someone's been making themselves at home. Please tell me that's not what I think it is. It is. That's where our poor little dear ended up. It must smell vile. A literal bloody hack job. Right, so I had the nephew track down that license plate number, and our props burglar is none other than a local menace by the name of Gad Barden. He's got a whole social media empire under the moniker of Giraroz Blessing. Blogs, YouTube, QuickMez, the works. with exclusive behind-the-scenes shots from on-location movie sets. And guess what? He's resplendent sword mad. Got heaps of photos from all over the reserve up on here. His latest blog entry is quite something. Salutations, followers and friends, blah, blah. Have been out of contact, lost my way in the ever-shifting forests. Foul supper left me ill some nights. 1080 poisoning. He's lucky to be alive, the muppet. Let me send you the link. Usually get Josh to help me out with this. There. Check your hunter, mate. Think he just hallucinated that terrifying creature? He certainly has an overactive imagination, I'll give him that. It's too far inland for a taniwha and not humanoid enough for a patupaere. Unless... Anyway, he's an absolute bloody idiot, but I'm glad he's alive. This could have gone so much worse, and it's my own stupid fault for allowing them to film here. I just hate seeing the place disrespected. It's not just the bush, it's my home. I grew up a stone's throw from here. No one's around anymore, but you're welcome to swing by the old house once the filming's wrapped up if you're still in the area. I'll send someone by to clean this up later. Let's get back on track. I'm sure you've seen plenty of fancy castles on your travels, but I guarantee you they're nothing compared to where I'm taking you next. We're gonna do some hunting out by Stone Castle Valley, a limestone formation not far from here. Another mess. Our bigwigs couldn't resist this backdrop, and I can't say I blame them. Take a look around and see if you can clean it up yourself. How many of these fellas did they take with them? When you can't fake it with props, fake it with technology. Gonna be tough to move, even if they're not the real thing. They've really spread themselves out. I don't think you'll be able to do much here. I'll get a crew to swing by later. I'm curious to see where this is leading, though. Can you keep going? Stone Castle wasn't epic enough. That's a first. Down there by the old house. Certainly nothing worth filming. Surely not. What are those tracks? These are from a bulldozer. Can't believe it. You invite someone into your home and they do this to you. Just an obstacle to be cleared to them. What a mess this has been. Oh, left the letterbox. How kind of them.
Elisa, do what you want with it. Yes, I mean that. It's got my name on it, but that's probably just some townie's idea of a funny prank. I have a reputation with them after all. MM. Melanie Murphy, it must be. And this is my mother's handwriting. She's long gone. I had no idea they treated people like that. I was only a kid when she left. Lots happened since then, you know. Sorry, cat's got my tongue. It's a lot to take in. Tell you what, how about I put the kettle on and give Melanie a call? See where we're at with each other. And you head off and get us some more footage? I've already had a crew out at Stonecastle to clear up what was left, so I'd suggest starting there. Plenty of prime deer species in the area. Why don't you make that your focus? Lovely specimen. You're really a natural at this, eh? So listen, I had a brief chat with Melanie, and she was open to talking more. It's been 25 years, and it's going to take more than a single phone call, but it's a start. We had to cut it off, though. She's got news. Big news. She saw some tracks not far from here when she came by to leave the letter a day or so ago. And she swears blind they were from a moose. Are you ready to head out again, Ehua? Forget the marketing video. This just became a documentary. I've marked the location where Melanie saw the tracks on your hunter mate. 2 things. Keep that camera strapped to you and stay low. It wouldn't do to scare it now. We've come so close. Whoa, those are definitely moose prints and they're fresh. I'm pinching myself. Looks like a big one. A bull. One I saw was a cow. Must be her son. No records of any antlers in this area, but you don't exactly get many people out looking. Too remote. Keep one eye on the tracks, the other on your surroundings. I know, you know. Melanie used to drill that one into me. Can you imagine? They bundled 10 of them into crates and shipped them across the sea from Canada. Must have been terrifying. Most got shot, the others failed to adapt. This bloke we're stalking is probably all that's left of that line. Is that the end of them? Oh, I knew this was too good to be true. If he's lived this long in the reserve undetected, then he's not going to give himself up that easily. Right, Erhor, I think that's your work done here for now. I'll get Josh to set up more cameras around here so we can keep a close eye on things. In the meantime, I can't stop thinking about that letter. I might have been too harsh on people, or at least some people. So I wanted to ask you another favour. There's something in it for you this time, though. So here's the plan. I want to repay Melanie for telling me about the moose. I know I have every right to be angry with her for keeping that letter from me all this time, but frankly it would do the both of us good to move on. And ironically enough, I think the best way for me to do that is to face up to my past. There's somewhere and something I've been avoiding for far too long. Those are hiking boots you're wearing, right? Good. We're going up into the mountains. But then it fogged up. You didn't know what to do. Started swerving as if to get out of it. Next thing, we hit a bluff. I don't remember anything after that. Everyone survived. The pilot broke quite a few bones, but Melanie got off with just a few cuts and bruises. A lucky sucker. It should be around here somewhere. And the fire? False alarm. Anyway, the wreckage from that accident was never cleared. And I haven't been back since either. Too out of the way. But I'm certain there are still a few things worth salvaging up there. The cockpit. If it had hit the ground at a slightly different angle, would have been goners. Take a look around. See if you can find anything. Bingo. That's exactly what I was hoping we'd run into. Melanie's old hunting rifle. I asked her if she wanted it back, but she said it'd make more sense for you to hold on to it. She's a bit too long in the tooth to get up to much hunting these days, the poor dear. I'll have it patched up and sent to your weapon locker. Consider it a bonus for a job well done. Take one more quick look around before you head down, can you? Cheers. Yeah, that's mine. A gift from my mum, who got it as a gift from hers. Now I've been missing it all this time. Can you drop that necklace off by the nearest outpost and we'll wrap things up? Josh will head over for it later. I told him he'll never drive my car again if he so much as looks at it the wrong way. I think we're sitting pretty when it comes to hunting footage for the film now. I'll send what we have over to the marketing team and leave the rest in their hands. Still, it's a shame that the moose thing didn't pan out. I've had more than my fair share of false starts over the years, so I knew it was never going to be easy. They're tricky like that. Something for the book at least, eh? An ultimate chapter. He yet lives. I'll be sure to let you know how the video is received anyway. Thanks again. And great job, Erhor. You can just leave it on the desk inside there. I hope Mum will be happy it's back in the family. Right, well I know you came here on holiday and... Did you hear that? Could it really be? It's close. Sounds like just beyond the outpost. Turn that camera on again. We're not done here yet. Follow the call. It couldn't have gone far. And he's off. It's what I would have done. We're a bunch of softies, eh? Still, now we've got proof. No one's ever going to call me a crackpot again. And I've got a story. Final chapter. Last of its kind. Or The Spirited Adventures of the Stoic Hunter and the Elusive Prey. Resplendent sword, eat your heart out. Speaking of which, this must be what spooked Barden, right? A creature from another world? Just like one of those, things from his movie? Quite the reaction, but then I guess he was still pretty munted. When I spoke to Melanie, she said that there's apparently been protests in town against the films that have been made here. Some of the Kiwi actors involved have cited poor working conditions, things like that. I have to say, I'm glad to see people rally around a common cause, even if I can't help but feel somewhat responsible for this whole debacle. But that's over and done with. The important thing is that we're changing tack, going all in on what this place needs. You know, they even invited me to an advanced screening of the film. I think I'll be not so politely declining. Well, that's that. As I was saying earlier, I know you originally came here to get away from it all, so why don't you take that time now and enjoy yourself? I'll be in touch again soon. Enjoying yourself out in the bush? There's nothing I love more than strapping a pack on and getting lost out there. So I'm glad you've had the chance to wind down and take it in after all that excitement earlier. Got a couple of updates for you. First and foremost, we released the promo film a few days ago. It's been wild. Phone's ringing off the hook kind of wild. In fact, we're almost fully booked for the autumn season already. I should be celebrating, but I've been sitting in my office, laser focused on how we're going to keep day tripper numbers down. We're not legally allowed to charge an entry fee, and quotas are hard to enforce, so maybe the solution is an outreach. Give those snot-nosed students a taste of the work we do here. Who knows? Might even make conservationists out of some of them. Anyway, the film's up, but we're still working on some final touches to the website. Oh, and the marketing team had a request. There's an old lighthouse by the coast that they'd like a few shots of. Can you head over there and I'll fill you in on everything else that's been happening? So, the bloke with the antlers, the firm we hired to do the promo film, has gotten in touch with one of the big online networks, and they're up for the idea of turning your moose chase into a documentary. I'm still working on my book, but I'm thinking this could be a good accompaniment. You've seen the show, now get the details, straight from their moose's mouth. Oh, of course they want to use your footage. And maybe even get an interview? You keen? Give it a think. Good opportunity to raise your profile, though I get the feeling that's not something that matters all that much to you. That's why I like you, Eho. What you see is what you get. In other news, Josh convinced me to let him go to that advanced screening of Resplendent Sword. He loved it, the brat, but then he must have read the books cover to cover about 10 times. He said, get this, he said that it had a strong message about environmentalism and cooperation. You think the same people who left all those messes behind came up with that? Hypocritical rubbish. It has given him a newfound appreciation for the reserve, though. He's even expressed an interest in hunting for the first time in his entire life. I think it's as much your influence as anything, but he's not going to admit to that anytime soon. Speaking of Resplendent Sword, the protests have continued and the demolition of the common made it into the local papers. I've actually received a lot of support. Even from people I wouldn't have expected it from. It's been humbling. Here's a good spot. I'm not going to go out of my way to drop in on the town, especially now I'm so busy with the book, but it is nice to feel like you're part of a community again. Moody. Let's get one a little closer up too. This beach is where I saw that moose cow about 35 years ago. She was staring out at the sea, looked heaps lonely. It probably won't surprise you to learn that I was kind of a weird kid, introverted and a bit in my own world. There was something about her that connected with me then, and still does. No one's manned this place for decades. Perfect. I'll send these on right away. Bolted shut. Right. Let's grab a close-up from around here. It's been quite the adventure we've embarked on, eh? I can finally see a future for this place where we're not at the mercy of outside actors. And that's in no small part thanks to you. To preserve Te Awaroa's heritage and safeguard our unique biodiversity requires constant vigilance, but I think I'm up for the challenge. Wouldn't you agree, Eho?